Here, I created this one as a reference, isn't it? And what I do is go to view, query dependencies, correct. If you click on this, you can see the dependencies between the queries, which query is depending on which one. And here you have something like, there is an option here. With this, by, using with the help of this slider, by moving this slider on the right side and left side, we can, zoom in, zoom out. And let me just see here. I just move this here. And look here, expenses 2 and expenses 3. Expenses 3 is depending on expenses 2. Okay, and then the expenses for this one, the source is expenses.xlx file. For the expenses, see, we have 3 expenses queries. For this expenses, the source is this file. The data comes from this file. For expenses 2, even for this, the data comes from expenses.xls because we have duplicated this query by just right-clicking on this one, and then we selected the duplicate. And then what I did, I just right-click on it, I create a reference for the same thing. But in this case, what happened? This is the one is referencing this one. And this one is pointed to this one. Okay. So this is what query depends. In the real-time scenario, you'll be using multiple tables, multiple queries will be there. Sometimes you'll be using blank queries also. So if you wanted to know which query, we created with the reference, which query we have duplicated it, and how it varies from how it differs from one another. If you want to understand it, you can go to the view and then click on query dependencies. Okay, supposing you go here and whatever the changes that you make it here, the same changes will get reflected here. Okay, 20, but whatever the changes that you make it here, it will not get reflected here because this is the parent, this is the child, right? So whatever the characteristics of parent will be inherited by the child, whereas the characters of child will not get inherited by parent, isn't it? That is how the genes will work in the biological thing, right? If your dad is angry, the son will also be angry, something like that. Okay, but if your son is angry, father will not be angry. It is not like that. Okay, so the references, this is the analogy you need to use it. And if I make any changes here, for example, I just say expenses incurred. I just rename this column. Let's see what happens here. No, okay, 1 second. Here I applied 3 thing, right? 1 second, expenses incurred. Yeah, look here. Here also it got changed in expenses 3. The reference one, because it is referencing to this one. And what are the changes you made it? See, in the expenses 2, I changed the column name expenses as expenses incurred. The same thing we can see it in the expenses 3 also, because whatever the changes you make it here, that one will get reflected here. But whatever changes that you make it here, that will not reflect in your expenses 2, because this is not a father, right? Parent. This is the parent, this is the child. Whatever the characteristics of parent, that one will be inherited by the child only. Child characteristic will not be inherited by parent. So now this is the basic thing you need to understand. Okay. And then the next one is we have something called the report refresh and all. Include report enable, disable. If you right click on this one, the query, if you right click on this query and if you see here, you can find these two apart from duplicate and reference. Now we understood the difference between duplicate and difference. The duplicate simply copy paste this value. For example, expenses and expense 2. I just right clicked on expenses. I clicked on duplicate. The exact Xerox copy of this one got generated here, right? So this one also. Now this one points directly to my file expenses.xlx. But this one for him, the source is this one. For him, the source is expense.xl because though I have created a duplicate from this one, right, for this, but it is independent of this one. this is not expenses 2 is not depending on expenses. It is completely independent from the other file, the parent file. But whereas in this case, instead of duplicate, I just selected reference. So what happened? This is the one is depending on this, and for him, the source is this one. Whatever these changes that I make it in this source, like expenses incurred, I renamed it. Automatically here also it got renamed it. Expenses incurred, right? It got renamed. Whatever the changes I made, it's also happening here. Okay, we have something else called the enable load and include in report refresh. See, if I just click on close and apply, let's wait for some time. It will take some time to see. Expenses 2 and expenses 3, both of them are getting refreshed. Expenses 2 and expenses 3, these two got refreshed. Okay, let us do one thing here. I just go here, and what I do is I just remove this column here, and then expenses 2, right? Let it be there. And I just remove this one. This is not required. Anyhow, let it be there. Close and apply. Sales W04, and only that file gets refreshed. Okay. So in the sales W04 query, I removed one column, row.id. So whatever the changes I made it to that specific query, only that one get refreshed. Okay. And apart from this, we have options like enable load and including report refresh. Probably I will discuss this once I cover the append option. So in that time, it will make sense. Okay, if I discuss about the enable load and include and report refresh, what is the next topic? We will discuss about data profiling. I covered it. Am I correct? How many of you remember it? Do you remember that I covered data profiling? Data profiling is something like yeah, I remember it. Pravat, you typed the answer for this. When I asked about what is data profiling, yes, yes, Arvind, right? So yes, Arvind confirmed it. So you said with the data profiling, we can better understand the characteristics of the data. For example, in the customer's name on each and every column, right? So how many number of valid records are there? How many number of records we have error in it, empty person, everything. We already discussed about this. Hence, I'll be moving with I sent the agenda, right? It's a duplicated one here. Okay, index creation. Okay, next what we will do is we will look at how to create an index. Supposing you have a column. 1 second. Here also you can load the data. So currently I'm in Power Query Editor. Even in the Power Query Editor, you can load the data. Let me just check. I have something like country table, country.xlx. Let me just load this file. Okay, let it be there. Here we can see the country ID and country. Okay. See, some scenarios, what will happen is, see in a table, it's kind of a lookup table. Okay. In the case of lookup table, I just give some meaningful name, right click on it and rename country lookup. So this is my country ID. I just go to the transform, use my first row as headers. Okay. I just want to promote this first row as my column header. Okay. Just click on this, use first row as headers. Okay. Now it makes sense. Okay. Some cases, what will happen, right? You wanted to include, you don't have any columns. You have columns, but you don't have a column to uniquely identify a record in your data set. In some cases, so in this case, the country ID is there. Using country ID, you can uniquely identify which record belongs to which one. The classic example is the employee example. So for example, in a person by the name, employee name is Harsha. Employee name is Harsha and employee name is Sri Hari. Okay. His employee ID is 1 and his employee ID is 2. And there is another employee by name is also Sri Hari. Okay. So this Sri Hari is different from this Sri Hari. This Sri Hari, let's his skill sets are Java, but this Sri Hari skills are big data or data science. Okay. And these two Sri Haris are different, but their name, including their initials, are also same. Okay. So in that case, how will you distinguish which Sri Hari, this Sri Hari is different from this Sri Hari? By introducing some unique values. So, the employee ID 2 refers to Sri Hari, who has experience in Java. The employee ID 3 is another Sri Hari. Okay, he knows big data and data science. With the help of this employee ID, we can uniquely identify the employees. Right. So this employee ID is related to this Sri Hari. This one is related to this one. But sometimes in the data set, what will happen is you don't have any column. Let's assume that we don't have a country ID column. Okay. So if I wanted to uniquely identify a specific, record in a table, so you need to create a unique ID in a column, right? So in that case, what we do is we rely on the index option. Add column. In the add column ribbon, you will find something called index column. And we have something called from 0, from 1, and custom. When you click on from 0, a new column will get created. That is your index column. The index value start from 0, 1, 2, 3, something like that. But in the case of Python, in the array concept, right? The cell location will be the first cell location will start from 0. If you want similar thing like this, right? You can go for this one. So, see, we have 3 options here. 1 second. You need to go to the add column to create an index. You will find the index column. You have 1, 2, 3 options from 0. Okay, I want to create an index starting from 0. 0 means it is United States. 1 is Australia, 2 is Germany, and 3 is New Zealand. No, I don't want the index values to start from 0. I want to change it. Okay, what you do is you don't have to drop this column. See, sometimes what will happen is, please listen carefully here. So I don't mind repeating it, but right, okay, fine. So in this case, sometimes what will happen, let's assume that you don't have a country ID column here, Prabhat. So in that case, how will you uniquely identify the employees? Let's assume that instead of country, employee names are there. How will you identify this Sri Hari is different from this Sri Hari, right? And you don't have any employee ID column is there. So in that kind of situations, the index option is very much handy. Okay, using index by creating index column, we can create the unique values for each record. You got it or not? Let's assume that this is employee ID, and here I don't have the data. Okay, this is employee ID, employee name. But let's assume that you don't have employee ID. But here two Sri Haris are there. So how do you say this Sri Hari is different from this Sri Hari? Employee number. If you have employee number, you can do it. So since I don't have any column like employee number, what I do is I create index column. So if you assign an unique values for each and every value, what will happen is you can understand, okay, this Sri Hari is related to this employee ID, this Sri ID, related to this employee ID. These two Sri Haris, we can identify with the employee of their, with the help of their employee ID. In this case, the employee ID is nothing but the index column. I'm going to rename this as an employee ID, just something like that, okay? But in this case, it is a country ID, country key, something like that. Got it. So now what I do is, see, index is very common. How many of you are familiar with RDBMS? In SQL Server, we create index, okay? But in SQL, not only SQL Server, you take any RDBMS, index is one of the important concepts. You have something with binary tree index, right? And then you have different types of index are available. But with index, we can improve the query's performance. Okay. But here in this case, what the Power Query, the index column, whatever in this option is available, with this, we can create a unique ID column. That's it. Something like you just think, this is an Aadhaar number, right? This is an Aadhaar number, 0. Other person Aadhaar number is 1. So this person is Prabhat, and another Prabhat is there. Two different Prabhat are there. That how will I get to know? But the data shows here Prabhat and here also Prabhat. But this Prabhat is different from this Prabhat. How will I know? With the help of their employee ID, I'll get to know. Okay, for this Prabhat, the employee ID is this one. For this Prabhat, this is the employee ID. So hence, we have two different Prabhats are there. See, when you have duplicate value, Prabhat here and Prabhat here, we will get to think, there is some duplicate record. If I go and tell the payroll guys, no, there is a duplicate of Prabhat name is there. So we will say back, he will tell me back, no, it is not a duplicate. This Prabhat is, there are two different Prabhats are there. Okay, then how will I know which Prabhat is related to which Prabhat? That's where the employee ID is referred, employee key or employee ID. With that, we can identify uniquely. Okay, we can create index column to create the unique ID for the rest of the columns. Let's assume that in this case, we don't have a country ID at all, right? So in that case, the country key 2 is nothing but Germany, country key 3 is New Zealand. And this key needs to, only these key values needs to get into your fact table. Okay. And other than these 4 key values, if anything else goes into your fact table, it will cause problem. Okay. There will be some kind of referential integrity issues. Okay, you don't worry about referential integrity and all. At this moment, you just think we use index to create unique ID column. That's it. So in this case, the unique ID is country key, something. Let's assume that country ID is not there. Only countries are the country key. Okay. Thank you. But like RDBMS, can I expect the performance, speed of the query? No, you cannot expect the speed here. Okay, it just meant for uniquely identify the records. That's all.